I left off of saying it's almost as if you had some kind of stroke and your entire understanding of the world has flipped on its head, and in many ways you're incapacitated. But that doesn't mean, and I want to emphasize this, that you can't come back and be a more refined version of yourself, a wiser version of yourself than you would have been before this experience. And I see it with every single day that I have maintained no contact and have forced myself to do things, how much easier tomorrow gets. I don't think about the primary narcissist anymore. I didn't think that that was possible. I don't care. I've actually gone to the authorities in my state and filed a police report. And that makes me feel safe. The fact that I've left it in the authorities' hands. Okay. And I'm lucky enough to live in a country where these things are taken seriously. I had an officer come to my residence and ask me if I wanted to file a restraining order, and I opted not to. But the fact that they came to my door gives me closure after all of this. The fact is, I feel that I've won this game. Because these people, they want you to give up on life. They want you to commit suicide. That's their ultimate aim. And they're so sure that you're gonna either commit suicide or let go of all of your creative potential because of this one experience. And so imagine this. Imagine you being that school child who thinks of other things, who has different motivations, who excels after this experience. And they're the people in the courtyard that are looking at your success and how much you've grown and how you attract people, how you inspire people. And they're left in the dust. And that's their karma. Is that they can never escape their destructive path. You know, if you think about gangs, that's what they consist of: prostitutes and drug dealers and failed people that can't break the cycle that they're in. But you're better than that because you escaped that. And think of it that way. Think about how you're going to rebuild your life. What sort of life do you want? These are the questions that are more important than analyzing gang violence, you know? You would find it weird if you spent all your time thinking about how pimps think and how prostitutes think and how strippers think and etc., or how drug dealers think. It doesn't cross your mind because you haven't been. Chances are, I don't know if you have been or you haven't, but typical people don't enmesh themselves in that environment unless they are in certain circumstances, in desperate circumstances. financially, emotionally. And it's the same thing here. It's like these people are a destructive force, and you've removed yourself from that destructive force, and now you're called to create. You can't just think about this destructive force, and it's very tempting to do that. And the minute that you start creating forward momentum in your life and creating a completely different path that's disconnected. That's when you become a survivor. That's when they've lost you. And that's the only time when you can really defeat them by default. Because you've changed your game. Your game has become more about you and being of service to the world. Being a creator. So in changing your game, you've already transcended their game. And it's almost like I was standing in the elevator today and I was thinking of all these themes, and I was thinking of like that expression, the only way through is to go through, but the only way through this situation is to rise above. Because you were on a different wavelength to begin with if you entered this relationship. You were in a different wavelength, and they knew that. And they wanted to bring you down to their wavelength, where they could keep you in that state. And I'm here to tell you, if you're watching this video, that it's possible to completely transcend this. You're on a different level than them. They cannot create. They cannot originate. They cannot do it because of the construction of their personality. They can't deal with rejection. They're incredibly insecure about themselves. They cannot create anything because they hate themselves. You can't marvel at your own creation if you hate yourself and everything that derives from you. So these are some things that I was thinking about. I'm just saying that I've with every day I become less and less concerned about narcissism and more concerned about rebuilding everything. And there's almost no preset idea that I can take with me from the past, because so much of it is about narcissism and dashing away from narcissism and learning how to function without these people. But there are some bits there that I can take with me into the future. And so I'm excited because it's exciting. It's exciting to create things. And when you're in a perpetual state of creation, you're keeping yourself out of trouble. You're keeping yourself away from their influence. You become like the good kid, the studious kid that gang members don't come up to because they know that they cannot get to them. They can't get in here because you have too much going on up here for them to be able to hook you. And that's when whoever your narcissist was, they're in a state of desperation. And you'll never understand that because you simply don't have their brain. You don't have their psyche. But that's the best way of thinking about it. They're thugs, and you're not a thug. You know, you're a student. So, think about what you're going to study today. Kisses.